Hello and a very warm welcome to day 2 of the Metabolic Health Conference India, an event with a purpose to heal. They say that tough times don't last. It's the tough people that do. And tonight, I'm about to spotlight this tough human to you. A New York-based lawyer who wanted to be a doctor. He has been a heart attack survivor. He has stood against the conventional wisdom to put his diabetes to remission. And how, if you may ask? Well, let's have the spotlight tonight on Antonio Martinez. Welcome, Tony. Welcome to the show.
Well, thank you, Mahek. And I know it's good evening in India, and India is a country I look very much forward to visiting in the future. And it's an honor to be part of this community because we're a global community. I spend a lot of time traveling, and the problems that India is facing, the United States facing, South America, Latin America, I spend a lot of time there, in Europe. This is a global problem, this problem with diabetes. And my life is really a story about how we manage and deal with this condition. And it's been a journey, because it is a journey. I would say to anybody who's dealing with this as a patient, it is a journey. Think of it as a journey. You'll get to explore, you'll get to experience, and you'll get to learn and evolve, because it will, this crisis is a transformative experience for the patient, because you are forced to learn and try new things, and then when you find out what's working, you want to keep the momentum going in your favor. So I'll just stop and let you. I can go on and on.
That is so nice. It's it's so nice to hear it from people, especially the ones who have been through it. It's very easy to just read up things, but when you're actually talking to somebody human, there's so much of emotions involved, and there is so much to exchange and learn from the other person. And I really thank social media too for this, because that's one of the ways we've all connected, and we get to learn each other's journey and learn from each other.
Absolutely. This whole crisis, I look at this issue from another perspective, because one of my observations about these conferences is that doctors, the scientists get together, but there's not enough input from the patient side, because you need to hear from the patient experience to know why things work and why things didn't work. And then you also have to look at, in a broader context, the milieu or the environment that's permitting this. So as a lawyer, I'm thinking, what regulations, what laws, what policies are creating the situations or blocking the ease of solutions, making solutions more difficult? And I've always said that in these kinds of conferences, there should always be a component that looks at the policies and the laws that create the problems and could solve the problems. So that's the only way that we can actually make these things more significant or substantial for everybody. And you also want to attract scientists and innovators. Because when you follow, for example, the ketogenic diet, you're struggling with, so, well, how do I continue if I can't eat bread? Well, what can I eat, or how can I take something that I was used to eating and create a ketogenic version of it? Like, I always look at recipes and go, okay, I would love to have this, but forget about it. I see these ingredients. So how can I substitute these ingredients with something that would fit in, and will it taste as good? Will it be fine? These are and you got to look at it as an adventure. It's fun. There's a lot of trial and error, and but you do it. And then, eventually you you strike gold and you get there. So anyway, please.
So magical, literally. And I totally hear you because I have been through the same journey last 5 years. The entire transition, from being on high carb, and then you switch to a little bit of low carb, and then, of course, then there's a lot of a lot of people telling you, oh, this is not going to work, and how long are you going to do it? So there's so much of mixed emotions, even when you're in that transition journey, that sometimes you also start doubting yourself. Am I doing it right or not? But then you just keep moving on, and like you said, one fine day you're just going to strike gold.
Yeah, and you also, the experience is really profound. When you become fat adapted.
Yeah.
So like I was traveling, I was at a conference in Las Vegas of nutrient supply manufacturers. In fact, they do this conference in India. I know the people at the company that they actually do this also in India. And so I went to a late night dinner party on Wednesday, ate quite a bit, but I had a steak and I had shrimp and then I just said yesterday, which was a travel day, I said, I absolutely had no hunger. And I said, I'm just going to, I just fast. And then I woke up this morning, I went to the gym, do my little lifting routine. It's very important. If you're diabetic, what I want to tell you as a patient, something you have to kind of conceptualize, that you are managing an energy distribution problem in your body. And so you have to be aware of all the tools. Anyway, we can talk about that a little bit more, because going to the gym and weightlifting, strength conditioning is critically important. Think of it like your muscles are your kitchen sink, and muscles are the only things that really, besides the brain, that utilize glucose. So if your sink is deep and wide, then there's more room to manage the energy that's coming in. But anyway, but my point being is, I wasn't hungry. I mean, I woke up this morning, I went to the gym, I worked out, fasted. I just had my decaf espresso.
Wow.
That was it. So that's it. But that's when and later today I'll have a steak and, maybe have some broccoli or something with it. I have to go to the market to do that. But these are, you can do it. And I don't feel deprived, none of that. And that is the beauty of, one of the benefits of the ketogenic approach is you will become fat adapted, and you understand that your body can run off fat, and that your necessity for glucose is minimal. And even if you don't have, the body has that. The other thing, this experience, and I'm a spiritual person, it really leaves you in reverence for God, for our creator. Put this all together is magnificent. You go, wow. This is, this is how you can do it. But if you're just starting out, understand this is a journey that's going to take time. Think of yourself as like you're back in school, and enjoy the ride, and work with your teachers, because your doctors are your teachers. There will be friends or people that will have influence on you. I have the privilege of knowing Shashigant, who put to organize this with Anup and D-Life, and these are, you get
to get everything together.
You get to meet lots of really great people and organizations. We all have a common goal. We want life to be longer and more qualitative. Absolutely. And this is the way. So I'm rambling. So go ahead.
It does not even feel like I'm speaking to you the first time. I just feel like we've met before, we've spoken before, and there's so much to learn. But yeah, let me start.
I do believe in past lives, Mike.
That's wonderful. I'm sure we've met then, Tony.
Yeah.
I hope we do meet in the future, but yeah.
No, well, definitely, because I do believe that there's no reason why there shouldn't be a low-carb India live. You have one of the largest populations on planet Earth,
Absolutely.
And so
There are so many to heal.
I'd be delighted to work with the people who put this together, the business side of it. There's great opportunities for people here to offer services, products, and also give some guidance and support. Because this journey, if you're, it also can feel lonely, because when you get a diagnosis of diabetes, you're like, oh my God, what am I going to do? Or damn, I thought I could avoid it, and now I have it, like my parents or this relative or that relative. Don't let that get you down. Now, accept that reality. And like I said, you have to look at it. Like I said, my metaphor is the dragon.
Yeah.
So there's a dragon. So I've got to keep that dragon sleeping. And the way, and you can keep the dragon sleeping for a long time. There's no reason, if you have type 2 diabetes, why you can't still have normal blood sugars, why you can preserve your eyesight, you can preserve your kidney function, you can preserve your healing capacity, so you're not losing limbs and extremities. If you understand what's going on inside your body and know that food is at the source of either the benefit or the detriment, then you can make adjustments. And if you're struggling because there's an addictive component to this, then there are still things that you can do about it. And there's even medications that can do that. So
yeah, absolutely. I really think this is so important, this understanding of what accountability means. We are accountable for our own health to ourselves. We're constantly blaming everything around us, the surroundings, the people, the coaches. But what we need to understand is, when we've cleared our mental setup and when we have decided that we want health over illness for ourselves, and it's obviously going to transform to our family. So I really want to understand, at the beginning of this conversation, of course, we've had a pretty nice conversation already, but I want to understand from you, what happened? How did your journey begin? What happened? And what brings you here today, being a lawyer? What are the struggles you went through that has got you here? And I believe you're a heart attack survivor too.
Yes. Yeah. So I was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes in 2002. And I went off the track. I just thought, well, I'll take the medication and all that. And
sorry if I may just interrupt you here. I would like to know, how did you detect your type 2 diabetes? What was your eating pattern?
Okay,
before that, and what was your lifestyle like?
Okay, well, I was overweight, and I was also feeling kind of sluggish. I wasn't feeling right. And then the doctor did a blood test. And he was looking at me and he said, you have, I think you have diabetes. He said, your blood sugar's at 200.
Oh, 200.
Yeah, 200. Yeah.
And you had never tested your blood sugars prior to that?
No. I had done years before that time, I had done a glucose tolerance test that was kind of like a border. There was a problem. That was when I did it with the late, great Dr. Robert Atkins.
All right.
Who I had the privilege to work with in the early 90s. We worked to get the laws changed to allow dietary supplements, botanicals, herbs. They were going to be taken off the market. And the FDA had an agenda to take them off the market and make them, or to put them into the pharmaceutical category, which would have made it tremendously expensive and just bad. People having less choices and less access to information. So yeah, I when I'd gone for my checkup there, and I wasn't feeling right, the doctor says, yeah, you probably have your blood sugar's 200. You probably have diabetes. We did another test and we confirm it. And he goes, well, I got to put you on Metformin and you got to change your diet and blah, blah. So I do that. And then
he did tell you to change your diet at that point.
He did. He said, hey, but it wasn't. but it was the wrong. It was like go on a low fat. It was
The conventional wisdom.
the conventional
The
diet
diet,
that they give to
yeah.
diabetics, which is crazy.
Yeah, and I see that
Because
in
it's
India too. When I look at
because
the diet paper, it's amazing.
yeah. When you think about it, if diabetes is a condition of carbohydrate intolerance, why would you have a diet that focuses on carbohydrates? And why have you demonized fat? And then, but that's the extension of the, I guess I want to use it. I'm looking for the best words. Well, the dogma that was created by Ansel Keys
Absolutely.
with that whole cholesterol theory, which is flawed. We know that is flawed. Anyway,
and there is no evidence to that anyway. So
yes, I mean, cholesterol is like
it's life.
Yeah, it's like no, but in the play, in the drama, in the movie of heart disease, it's like cholesterol is a supporting actor. It's not even the actor. It's a supporting actor with a tangential role, but not the primary, not even a catalytic role.
It's just found at the crime scene. And
exactly. It's at exactly. Anyway, so we do this. We do these. So I evolve. I go on to the next drug called Janimet, and I'm thinking, great, I'm still eating everything that I think that I want and all that, and I'm thinking the medication is going to take care of it. And so, 10 years ago,
the high carb diet on your regular diet, and
pretty much, and I was still eating. Yeah. So, for example, and this will be a shock to somebody, particularly in India, because this is a staple. I haven't eaten rice since 2014. Okay, no rice. I still will have occasionally. I will say I will. During maybe 2 or 3 times a year, I'll have, because I actually become a pretty good cook. Of Cuban black beans, so we'll have that. And now, thanks to innovation, there are products that you can use to substitute for noodles and rice. The shirataki, the konjac root.
Yes.
Perfect. That's what I use if I wanted to have a pasta dish, or they even make konjac rice. I'm actually experimenting to make different forms, different recipes to see how that goes. But it has the consistency, or I love it. I haven't had a good Spanish paella, in a long time. Now I tell my friends in Spain, now if you want to make me a paella, we got to do it either with cauliflower rice or with this stuff. But you get innovative, you get creative. But yeah, so you give up those foods. So it's 2014, and I won't forget this. I'm in Puerto Rico on a legal meeting, client, and I remember here's the other thing too. I remember I'd eaten with some at a Taco Bell. Just junk of garbage. And after I eat that, I'm not feeling the next, I go to bed, I'm not quite feeling myself.
Happy about it.
I wake up in the morning, I'm still not feeling myself. I feel kind of like indigestion. And yeah, and I feel like right under right over here in my the sternum, right there. It feels like there's like as if there was a pebble, and that was actually the blockage, the constriction there, the stopping of the blood flow that was causing that pain. So it's there, and I'm like, I just feel awful. I can't continue the meeting. I think I'm wondering, my stomach's not right. So I take some like Pepto-Bismol. That kind of doesn't do anything. I'm not feeling right. All I can do is just lay down and stay. And my friends say, why don't you go to the emergency room? I go, I'm going back to New York. I'm not going to stick around. I don't have any relatives here in San Juan. I call American Airlines. I said, when's the next flight back to New York? 5 o'clock. There's first flight out is at 5 a.m. or 6 a.m. I said, well, put me on it. They put me on it. And I remember I was like feeling, I'm like with luggage and all of this. and I'm like feeling really bad. And on the plane, I can't really eat anything. I'm just drinking. I call a friend of mine, and I tell him, I said, listen, I need a favor. I said, can you pick me up here at the airport? And you're taking me straight to the emergency room. Oh, well, we're gonna I go, no. I said, you're gonna take me to this particular emergency room. This is what the Obamacare, the new health insurance program had started, and I had paid for the best, the platinum plan. I was like, something like, no, you're gonna take me to this hospital. I want to make sure I'm covered. I just got instinct. So we get to picks me up, takes me straight to the ER, and literally after they check my blood pressure and they do the vitals, they rush me into the ER, and they immediately apply heparin and nitroglycerin. And I still have, and I unopened from 2014, that I'll get to that nitroglycerin that was given to me, prescribed to me by my cardiologist, who said to me, oh, after this, if you have pains, and you got to take the nitroglycerin. Well, I'm in the ER. They stabilize me, and the doctor says to me, the lady who's now my cardiologist, she says to me, God must really like you. I said, why? She said, because he says, you were nuts to get on a plane. He said, you should have gone to the ER immediately in San Juan. I said, if you had waited probably a few more hours, I said, you'd be dead. Whoa. He said, I've got to, so count your blessings. He said, well, I've got to send you to a different hospital because you need more aggressive treatment. I had to have a stent placement. And I was transported by ambulance to a hospital called Montefiore in New York City. And there, they had me there, and they weren't, by the way, in my diabetic state, they weren't giving me any medication. And then they were feeding me the worst food that you could imagine. Why would you give to someone who has a poor glucose control and is, dealing with and heart attack?
Yeah.
Why would you give them this horrible food, this low-fat skim milk, toast, potato, all these things? And I'm like, I call a friend, I said, please bring me something, real food, bring me nuts, salmon, so I can't eat this crap. And then they were monitoring me for like 24, 48 hours. And then they did the stent placement, and then they put me on, they released me after they put the stent, they released me like 2 days. So I was a total in the hospital, I believe my recollection is about 3 or 4 days. And then when they release you, they just give you this laundry list of supplements, and they tell you all of this that you got to do, and drugs, not supplements. They give you a laundry list of pharmaceuticals, and there's very little emotional support, because you experience really for the first time your encounter with mortality. You realize that you're not going to be here. I called, when I was in the intensive care, I called my son, who was in college at the time, and he literally, he drove straight to the ER to see me. It's a traumatic experience. And then after it, when you get out, like, okay, what am I going to do? And why did this happen? And you start to evaluate, and you look at all of the medications, and one of the medications, and they tell you medications is, they put me on I'll never forget this, because there's a drug called metoprolol, which is fantastic beta blocker, but they don't tell the patient of one of the terrible side effects, which is you have, if you're a man, forget about having an intimate life. and then they don't warn you, and then all of a sudden you're with your loved one, your partner, your
Absolutely.
my girlfriend is at the time, and she was like, oh my, and I'm like, doctor, why didn't you tell me these things? I said, do you actually think this, that at this point in that I'm going to spend the rest of my life and not have a full life? So I said, all of these drugs, and then you weren't. Some of them made you feel not yourself. And I said, I got to get off all of this crap. And I said, well, I got to go back. I said, maybe Dr. Atkins was right. So I rented and I bought a documentary called Serial Killers, like cereal, like
Yes.
the cereal cornflakes, and that was just brought everything back home to me. And I said, of course. And the premise of Serial Killers was that how could an Olympic athlete all of a sudden, in later on in life, develop all these chronic conditions, diabetes, heart disease, and so forth. And then we understanding, you go, okay, it's always been about the insulin. It's about the hyperinsulinemia that creates the cascade of all of these diseases, which is a function of the hyperinsulinemia related to the insulin resistance. And so you got to get back down to the root causes. And so one of the ways, you got to stop it. How do you stop it? For how to bring insulin down? Stop eating carbs.
Absolutely.
Reduce your dramatic, and a ketogenic diet will do that. So that's how I got into it. And then I told my doctor, I'm going to do this. And he said to me, hey, that's good. That's a lot of fat. I don't know. He said, we're going to have to really monitor. You're going to try. I said, yeah, I'm going to do this. So that was the summer of 2014. And I come back from, it's the end of the summer, beginning of September, I do my first set of labs. And that's when he called me up after he did those labs. And he said, Tony, what have you been doing? I said, why, doc? He said, well, whatever you're doing, keep doing it. I said, your blood sugars, you have your A1C's normalized. Ooh. I go, really? He says, yeah. He says, I don't have to. He says, you don't have to take Janamet. He says, yeah, I want you to still take Metformin, but I can take you off Janamet. You don't need to be on this. I said,
that is such an aha moment, right?
Yeah, that was an aha moment. And I always said, when I do my public speaking, I would say, yeah, the September 2014 was the moment in time when I stopped my contribution to the $25 million a year salary of the CEO of Merck. And not that I think pharma does great things, but I mean, yes, the whole business model of diabetes pharma is not to deal with cures. It is to deal to keep people on drugs for life. And at that time, it was like $600 a month to be on the Janamet that I was on, and crazy. I think if my calculations, year to date, not being on Janamet, it's got to be well over $60,000 now to date. Mortgage. That I didn't have to spend. My health insurance company didn't have to give to Merck, and that money could be used for other things. So, like when I'm beginning to save, as I came off all the medications, and I did the same thing with my my cardiologist started taking me off everything. The money that I saved, I started to use to buy better food, higher quality meat, organic vegetables. Again, as in a ketogenic diet, if I were to have any fruit, it would be the strawberries, blueberries, blackberries, the berries, and maybe an occasional some kiwi fruit. But and in lemons and limes, you use, of course, and then the other, the atypical, what you don't think of fruits, but are fruits are the eggplants and tomatoes, those things. That's so you just change what you do. And then when I went on the ketogenic diet, I did have an adjustment period. I did experience what's called the keto flu, keto rash, which when I went to the doctor to look at the rash, he was like, didn't know what to do. we did some checking on some of the research, and they found one course of doxycycline, and that was it. I was done. I never had the issue ever again. And it's always been about, from that point forward, following the program, and implementing other things. So with the heart attack, I looked at a very targeted supplement protocol, which has been working very well for me, because I'm going to be 60 years old in December. I'm not on any blood pressure medication. I'm not taking any cholesterol medication. I do follow a protocol that was put together or works off of some research that was done by a gentleman named Patrick Teut, Theut, and he used that protocol to basically stop coronary plaque progression by following basic principles with the diet and the targeted nutrition, and then you do the other really important thing which is the exercise, the strength training. You have to keep your body in a muscle building mode. It's almost like the program that goes off in your body is to lose muscle mass. And so you have to interrupt that. And so you got to get there at least, 3 times a week, go through all the different machines, work out to failure till you muscle failure, till you can't do it. And you do it slow. You're not trying to be like Arnold Schwarzenegger or Mr. You want to do it where when you walk out of the gym, what you feel in your arms or anything is kind of like this. You feel the blood flow, and you feel like there's there's an expansion, a tightness. So that's what you're looking for. And you want to work with a weight and at a speed where you can build up that kind of tension. And then when you feel that heat, you stop, you take a break, and you move on to the next, to the next machine. And that's kind of how I do it. I really wish I had the time for a trainer so I could get more, more target, but that's my general approach.
Lovely. So you are currently even exercising, and I believe you're also still following the ketogenic carnivore diet. Am I right?
Yes. Oh, yeah. I know that I know that beef is not it's common in the Indian culture, but but tonight I will be eating
cow meat.
Excuse me?
We don't have access to cow meat. We're here with just goat and buffalo and lamb and chicken. So.
Yeah. I love lamb and chicken, but yeah. But I'm like, I'm gonna have a steak tonight, and that'll be the main focus. So it'll be like a fatty meat, and then if I want to, if I want to, I'll add like broccoli or one of the vegetables that are low carb, and there are low carb vegetables.
Absolutely. And you can always have them once in a while where you want to maybe just, make a change for your palate, or when you're sitting with friends and family, just for that little shift. But I think that doesn't really go for a longer period. You just have it occasionally and you're done with it, right?
Yes. Yeah. And then, what I also appreciate and I had to adapt to is, you really have to learn how to cook and take control of what you're eating, because if you're surrendering yourself to restaurants, you don't know what the hell they're giving you. You don't have control over the seed oil issue. And even if they tell you, oh, this doesn't have sugar or whatever, I remember being told, yeah, this is sugar free, and I'm drinking this drink. I go, there's no way that and I go, man, what if you're not using sugar? What are you using? Oh, the kitchen tells me they use this thing called agave. And I'm like, agave is like this was like
you'd rather add sugar to it.
Yeah, it's like duh, that's sugar. And I'm like,
that's
please.
true.
And then I would go, and I'm like, because wearing a CGM, and I'm like, oh my,
it's spiked.
What the hell did I?
Exactly.
Yeah, what the hell did you just give me? So you you develop the discipline to cook, so you can have control over the ingredients, and you can decrease the possibilities of screw ups like that when you're at a restaurant.
Yeah,
and when I go to
that's
restaurants,
good.
pretty easy because I'll just, I pretty much will go. My appetizer will be some kind of meat or cheese or something like that, and then my main dish would be some kind of meat, and maybe a vegetable. And then when they come back to go offer you dessert, I'm like, no, I'm good. Cup of coffee maybe, but that's it.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, this is one of the issues I have even seen with people and with clients, even with family. Whenever they go out, they're always so stuck. What are we going to eat? And I said, it's your choice. When they hand over the menu card to you, you make the choice. No one forced you to call for a pasta. No one forced you to call for a sugary beverage. There's
Right.
always an open menu, but it's always what we wish to choose.
Correct.
Yeah. So tell me what according to you is the must not haves in a diet? Usually we ask people that to include certain things in our diet to make our lifestyle more healthy. So what can I add? Everyone keeps asking me, what can I add to my diet? And I often tell them, well, let's look at it the other way. Let's look at what we can eliminate from your diet to make it better.
Well, I just follow. There's a really good advice that was put together really by a gentleman named Vinny Tutorich, another friend of mine, and Vinny is very smart, strong, is a very sharp guy. He just says like no sugar, no grains, no vegetable oils, no sweet fruits. And for diabetic, and no starches. And if you're type 2 diabetic, one of two things will happen if you follow that basic approach. You will go into dietary remission, or your A1C is definitely going to come down with that. Now, that sounds shocking at first.
Yeah.
But once you understand, or for example, when you become fat adapted, your appetite changes. So you're not like hungry all of the time. And when you eat, you stay fuller longer. Yeah. And the desire to have all these other things, they diminish. They may not all necessarily go away. For example, I will struggle with nuts. I like nuts, but nuts are very and addictive. Nuts can become like potato chips. You just can't stop. You want to keep. Yeah.
I totally agree, because 3 years back, when I started reading The Carnivore Code by Paul Saladino, I remember it was just a transition from keto into carnivore. And, it was so tough, Tony, when I was reading that book. Usually I would finish reading a book within a month. That's the longest I take. Now, for the Carnivore Code, it took me almost 8.5 months to finish that book, because there was so much of elimination. There was nuts to be eliminated. There was spinach to be eliminated. There was broccoli to be eliminated. And I'm wondering, what am I going to be left with on my plate?
Yeah. Well, my answer to that is you got to find what works for you.
Yeah.
So it's not like I look forward. It's not like I eat broccoli every day, but if I'm going to have a vegetable, or if I'm in a situation, that's probably one of my go-tos. Broccoli, one of the cruciferous vegetables will be the rule of thumb is if it's a vegetable that grows on a leaf or above the ground, it's probably going to be better. Anything below the ground, now you're in, you're in carb territory, and you shouldn't do it.
Yeah. And then there's also that addictive nature that then you keep going back to those same or similar kind of foods.
Right.
Because like you said, you're hungry all the time. Your blood sugars are fluctuating.
Yes. And you're also dealing with, and I've been fascinated about it, because these new class of these GIP agonists, the drugs, Ozempic,
Yeah, I was just reading about
and
Ozempic a few weeks
yes,
ago. People kept
yes,
saying it was
they are
dark.
finding that not only is it helping people stop eating because they stop
Yes,
overeating, but they find that it helps with cravings in general. They are finding that it is helping to reduce cravings for alcohol or other kinds of
true.
behaviors, addictive behaviors. The problem is we don't have long-term data safety. There's one massive, what I would say, phase 4 drug experiment going on in the population, where we don't know
I
yet
don't know.
we've usually found that for every drug that does something miraculous, there's an underside, or there's
Yes,
some
we have to wait.
there's nothing for free.
Yeah,
There's
there's something behind it.
some price there that
It's got to be
the
paid.
patient's going to have to pay, not just with the wallet,
Yes, yes.
but there's got to be some type of help, because it's a manipulation of the balance of the system of, we look at your body as a system of signals.
Yeah,
And if you get the signal, then this happens. And if it doesn't get the signal, then that happens. And it's a whole breakdown of things, all because we're not eating properly. We're not eating in the manner that supports the proper signaling and functioning of the body.
absolutely. And I would call this as even the term hormonal imbalance. Everyone that I hear today is talking of hormonal imbalance. And I tell them your hormones will be balanced when you eat the right quality of the food, not by suppressing it with medications or by, other
Correct.
forms. So yeah, it all bottles down to your nutrition, to your choices, right?
Yes. Yeah. Correct. It's always.
You were a vegetarian, I believe, for some time.
I tried vegetarianism in the 90s, and it was a bad experience for me. Because when I went to the doctor thinking that, and this is before my type 2 diabetes diagnosis, but it was when I got the warning of that glucose intolerance, what are you doing?
So you were vegetarian.
I'm doing all this, I'm doing all these fruits and vegetables and juicing and all that. I'm thinking and I go get my blood test, and the doctor says to me, "What the hell are you doing?" I said, "What are you eating? What are you?" I go, "Nothing. I'm enjoying fruits and vegetables.
Yeah, they're so healthy.
Drinking, juicing, and all of that."
Yeah.
I go, "Well, because you got like 600 triglycerides. I said, I'm gonna have to put you on a drug called Lopid if you don't
600.
stop." It's 600. Yeah.
And this is on a vegetarian diet.
Yes.
Unreal.
Well, it just goes to show you that it's not just because it's vegetarian, it doesn't mean
it's a lot of carbohydrates, because
there's too much.
Yes. Make up for that loss of whatever you're not getting, the nutrients that you're not getting. You have to make it up.
Yes. Yeah, that's exactly so yeah. And also, to me, it wasn't as it wasn't the satiety. That is another thing.
The signaling is not.
You should eat to the point where you feel full, not overeat, but that you feel full. And that wasn't working for me with a vegetarian diet.
And for how long was this?
I was doing the vegetarianism for probably about a year, because I was kind of like experimenting at the time, because I was like looking at different ways, because I was overweight. I was like, oh, let me go on a low fat, complex carbohydrate, all this, like, come on.
I know.
And then I remembered Dr. Atkins, who warned me. He said, "No, Tony, you've got to." He says, "You're borderline. Don't wind up like your my father had diabetes, and my mother was just diagnosed with diabetes, so it was almost a fait accompli."
Whoa, that is really sad. Genetically, that's one of the factors that people keep adding to their statements. Oh, it's genetic. Well, I said it's not genetic. It's your dietary pattern that's genetic. You've been eating the same way that your grandparents or your parents have been eating, so it's your eating pattern that's hereditary.
I use this example to help people understand genetics.
Yeah,
So just because you have the genetics, it doesn't mean that it's going to happen. Think
exactly.
I said, when you think of mold or mildew, it only happens in dark, damp places. If the room is dry and well lit, there will not be mold or mildew. It just doesn't happen there.
Doesn't happen.
So diabetes is like a switch. You should know that you have the switch. Don't turn it on.
Turn
It's
it
like
on.
the dragon.
Yeah.
You've got the dragon, you wake up the dragon breathes fire and causes real problems. Don't wake up the dragon.
I'm going to remember that. Don't wake up the dragon. But tell me, Tony, I see a lot of meat eating states very high in diabetes. Their rates of diabetes are exemplarily very high in these states. And I really wonder, what is the problem when they're eating meat? Why is the rate of incidence of diabetes at a rise? There has to be some connection somewhere. If you can just help me with that.
Well, it's a very interesting observation that's coming from that research, but the research that begs some more deeper scientific inquiry. And it's like, what is the meat being eaten with? And let's remember something else. The hypothesis that I believe is, if meat is fat and protein, energy concentrated. Remember also the body, when you eat protein, the body will metabolize it into either waste or metabolize it into glucose, gluconeogenesis, if the body requires it from protein. So excess protein will get excreted, but before that happens, if it's needed for gluconeogenesis, it'll be used that way. And more metabolically efficient. It'll actually burn more energy to do that. But so when you think of it, that's a source of energy, one type of fuel, two types of fuel. And then you have this other fuel, this carbs, which it's like, think of wood kindle, just throw it on a fire and then boom, it like burns quickly, rapidly. But if you're overloaded here and you're overloaded here, what is diabetes? The diabetes is the inability to manage all of that energy, particularly this one, the glucose. So they're blaming meat for what this did. And then here's the other thing that they haven't been able, show me in studies where eating meat and water alone will cause diabetes. They haven't been able to show that. And it's a study that's been done. Here's the thing, the ignorance is profound. The Arctic explorer Stephenson did this study at Bellevue Hospital in the 20th century. He did 6 months, meat and water with patients. They all thrived. They had no problems because Stephenson was fascinated by the peoples that lived in the Arctic where there are no vegetables or fruits. They were only eating meat, whale, seal, fish, that kind of thing. And any foods they also were also eating a lot of fermented foods too. This is because when they had a very short season, they would ferment whatever berries or whatever. That's another. That was also something else that was very interesting. So that's the question that we should be asking when we say, well, why is there a high prevalence of diabetes with meat? Say, well, what else are they eating? And then separate
the two energies,
the two, and test and see what results you get. And I will say, if the science is consistent, I think Stephenson, he will be vindicated once more. And all of us who follow this primarily carnivore type diet, keto-carnivore diet, we are vindicated by our own personal experience, because I don't care how many plant-based people come to me and tell me, oh, I go, dude, or hey, I have normal A1C. I'm doing fine. I don't have a here's the other classic thing that you see that's is if people who have insulin resistance, they have the pot belly.
Absolutely.
So my stomach's flat.
Yeah.
So, and so that's another warning sign that you have too much energy. And so you got to get the energy under control. So how do you do it? Stop this so that the body starts to use the stored fat, and all of this and then you will achieve a balance. And then and your balance is only possible by your ability to utilize and manufacture insulin.
Yeah. Would you recommend fasting? Because then again, when you do a ketogenic lifestyle and then you combine it with intermittent fasting, I think that just works like a miracle.
Well, yes, I do intermittent fasting. As I said, I was traveling and I just came off of I would say a 36-hour fast. Yeah, and I'm fine. I mean, this morning I worked out, fasted, and then I just had an espresso with some cream, and that's it. And then this afternoon I'll have a nice sized piece of meat, and that's pretty much I should be fine going into the next day. If I want to have something else, I would, like I said, I'll heat up some broccoli and olive oil or butter or something like that.
Nice. What do you think needs to change in the healthcare policies around the globe? And the reason I ask the globe is because, of course, we are all fighting a common problem. So that includes India too.
Well, there has to be a reevaluation of the whole global food production and what's being sold to people.
Yes.
And on one level, there has to be a look on the pharma side of this as to we should be incentivizing people and companies to start. We need to go back to looking for cures. The whole economics is all screwed up because prevention and wellness is not as profitable as sickness and disease. And that's the contextual problem. And it's going to require policy changes to think about, how do we incentivize our society to focus on these things? Why are people getting rich off of death and disease and sickness and all of that, instead of the businesses and people who are actually keeping people healthy and living well and a quality of life? That's kind of a broad policy guide, but we have to look at things like guidelines. We had dietary guidelines here that actually have made the world obese and diabetic, and there needs to be accountability there. We have to stop. If something's not working, don't let it be human enough to say, doggone it, we were wrong. We need to change course. That's a biggest struggle I've seen in politics is, I was wrong, I apologize, or we can't keep doing this because it's not working. There's always someone that, no. You got to keep.
All about you. You did it wrong. You did not follow it.
Or God, heaven forbid that my whole reputation in life was staked, that and then all of a sudden I was wrong, or I was proven. That's life. Sometimes, that's the way things evolve. So, that's the contextual. Specific things like we're here in the United States. I'm really glad to have been part of the movement that moved to protect nutritional supplements and botanicals, herbs, and those kinds of things from being placed into the drug category, and was involved in getting the laws changed. And that that law does need some updating. Something. I was at this ingredient conference, and and I tell you, if you're going to buy supplements, if you're interested in a particular ingredient or botanical, look for the products that actually have the ingredients that have actually been patented and have some research. So, for example, Indians can relate to this Ayurvedic medicine. There's ashwagandha is a great botanical, it's excellent for anxiety. It's a calming, yes, it's a really great botanical. Well, they've done the research and they found that the substances that make ashwagandha effective, there's companies now that have isolated it, and I think of this, it was like a free plug for them. But if I'm going to buy an ashwagandha product, I want to make sure it has KSM 66, which is the patented, where the company is guaranteed that this ingredient will deliver and have the precise amounts of the effective components of the ashwagandha. So this is the approach that we have to look towards. And when it comes to food, it's about going to organics, avoiding the seed and vegetable oils. I would rather see them being used to burn in cars as biofuels than in our body.
Thank you for saying that.
Well, here's the thing. So how do we get industry to move away from food and into energy? Well, that's where that industry and energy industry should be getting together to go, okay, how do we scale the economy, make it feasible to start using this oil, to move our motor vehicles or, further, but to stop eating this. And how do we incentivize the right kinds of oils that actually will support the health? If you don't want to eat animal-based oils, you still have the avocado, you have the coconut, you have the olives. I mean, in Spain, one of my favorite things to do in Spain is I go to the olive oil part of the country there, and it just smells fresh of olive oil. I brought back like this giant 4-liter jug of Spanish olive oil because I knew it was pure, and I got it right there from the factory.
Absolutely. We're never testing our sources.
I'm sorry?
We're never testing our sources. Where are we sourcing our
Yes, exactly. Exactly. So we have to look at, as a society, look at the laws that incentivize and reward the correct behaviors and de-incentivize the wrong ones. If it isn't profitable, then people are going to stop behaving in that less profitable way.
Yeah. Absolutely. Is there any policy or reform that you are planning to change in the near future?
Well, one thing I'd like to do here in the United States is legally, there is no legally reinforceable definition of the terms low carb or ketogenic. Right now, it is the Wild West. The consumer it's really buyer beware, caveat emptor.
Yes.
You have to do your research. You have to look at the ingredients. Just because something says it's keto friendly doesn't mean it is. Just because it says keto doesn't mean it is either. The people are using that term very liberally, not strictly applying criteria. Yeah. So there needs to be some regulation like that on the books so that ethical manufacturers can compete fairly and not have the unfair competition by the unscrupulous manufacturers who don't care and are just trying to make as much money as they can, trying to fool the consumer who doesn't know or understand what keto means. They just know, oh, keto, that means I'm going to lose weight. I'm going to burn fat. That's the sad reality of the marketplace. The consumer is, for most purposes, ignorant. And part of our job is to educate. These three, if you're in this business, 3 things I tell you. You inform, so you tell a person about the problem. You educate, what are the solutions or answers to this particular situation, and you entertain. Try to make the process fun or an experiential way that the person goes, okay, I get it. Or yes, I remember that person told a very funny story, but now I understand what the point that they're trying to get across. So
Yeah.
that's marketing 101.
Yeah, yeah, because there are a lot of products that are being marketed as with the term healthy, and this is again a misguidance for people where you're taking on all these foods only because they are saying it's a keto product, but they never really look back at the ingredients and what those ingredients mean.
Or even the nutritional profile that,
Exactly.
are the 20% of calories coming
Coming in
from
from where?
carbohydrate? Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So reading labels, I think, is another aspect we need to look into to teach people and to educate them how to read labels so that they are not fooled on a daily basis.
That's the challenge, and that's a challenge that government literally has and it's literally and legitimately has, because it has to put it out in language that people can understand. And the tragedy is that most people's comprehension level has not increased; it's decreased.
Decreased.
And that really does not serve the society as a whole. It may serve interests that keep power in place, but that's not really the best interest long term of the society.
And we have to keep looking to change that.
Yes,
daily.
and it's events like this that we're doing here, and they're able to do this globally, makes it even more profound, because this is how transformation happens in a good way.
Yeah. That's the reason when I started the conversation, I said the Metabolic Health Conference is an event with the purpose to heal. We're wanting to educate people to heal themselves, but of course, with the right learning, with the right coaches, we're trying to wash out the misinformation. We're trying to make them unlearn. So I think there's a lot of unlearning that's going to happen in this entire 3-day conference that we're doing.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Tony, I have one last question for you. I know I'm taking up a lot of your time, but you've been so kind enough to be with me here all throughout this hour. What is your message to my country, India?
Wow. In the brotherhood of humanity, India is one of man's roots, with a very deep tradition, a very spiritual tradition of the whole question of man always wanting to connect with God and through life. And you are a hope for the free world, because we are in a world now where of the forces of totalitarianism, autocracy, socialism, and I don't want to say that in a way that in a way that it is. These are forces that are seek to control, undermine, and go against basic human principles. So my message is, in the area with health, we need to work together. We need to empower each other to be creative. And we need to reward achievement, and we need to change the playing field back to give health and wellness a level playing field to compete and prevail over sickness and disease.
Lovely. Thank you so much, Tony. It was so wonderful. Like I said, it does not feel that I'm speaking to you the first time. Thank you. Let me call on Shashi sir, and I think he would like to say a few words before we head on to
Tony,
our next.
thank you. Tony, thank you very much for accepting this invitation. In fact, when we had podcast 2 years back, that time we told that we are going to have a conference, and I'm going to invite you here for this conference. So we are so glad that me and Anup, that we could keep a promise and get you in this first event.
Well, when you do this live, I'll look forward to being one of your speakers and looking forward to visiting
Yeah.
and spending time in your wonderful,
Please.
magnificent country.
Thank you. Thank you. Anup.
Yeah, thank you, Tony. Thank you for joining this session. And 2 years back or 3 years back, when we did this podcast with Shashi, you had said, do it once in India. So all I have to say is we have heard you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
No, and bravo. And looking forward to the next evolution of this. Much success and blessings.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you for giving me this opportunity to be with you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Tony.
Namaste.
All right. And my contact information on Twitter is the @US
Yeah.
AMBCUBA. Look forward to communicating with everybody through that channel. And now Twitter has the ability to call and video. So technology is going to actually bring us closer. It's going to bridge the divide. Have a beautiful evening over there. My day is starting. God bless you all. Take care.
Thank
God
you.
bless you, Tony. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.